Cosolate Muga. I live here in sub-county of Uriri, Nyarago village, and I'm a widow. Currently, I'm a director of Mercy Compassionate Center, and also I am a servant of God. Mercy Compassionate Center was founded in the year 2000 when I remained a widow, and God gave me a vision to start something to help children. And I did not know that I can make it. And so for 8 years I stayed bargaining that it was not me who was being called. But after 8 years, God has given me about 6 things to be done. One of them, the first one, was to stay with the children. And I never knew that there was a children's home, something like a children's home. So I just began to start pondering, how will this one happen? And as I continued, every year, God would give me a vision. The second one was to have a farm where I would cultivate food and the children would eat. The third one was to have a church where the children would have spiritual nourishment, and also they will worship God. The fourth one was to have a school where these children would learn. The fifth one was to have a group of widows that would come together and share their plight and just be together as widows. And the sixth one was also to go into the community, to share with the needy in the community, to share even with the children in the community, to see what is happening in the society. And so what was there was that to see that every widow lives a life of honor and dignity, and that also children will realize their dream. And because of that, after 8 years staying in Nairobi, that was in 1992, the year 2000, I came to Uriri. I lived in Uriri in a one-roomed house. I started with 5 children, staying in one-roomed house with 5 children with 1 helper. For 8 months we were there, and then the year 2001 we moved to another location where we had a bigger room and a big farm. And there I know that it was now the vision that God has given me, because I needed a farm where to cultivate our own food for the children. And there it was. We were cultivating food. We had all kind of food in our garden. Before long, we started a kindergarten for the young ones who are there. And it didn't take long before I started ministering to the widows. Some of them were so old, living. Mostly the widows that we were having were widows who are left with very young children. Their sons and daughters-in-law have died, and there they are. Their houses were leaking. Most of them didn't have houses. And by the grace of God, I saw God started working. Even some of the ladies starting having new houses for themselves. Their children were staying with them. Life started changing even for these widows. They became happy because at least there was a help for their grandchildren. If they were going to school, they had shelter, they had clothing, they could be attended medically when they were sick. And also, these widows, when they were sick, we could also take them to the hospital. We took them to the hospital, and actually we took their, we saw that they are well kept, going to the hospital and getting their needs. Life has not been easy as a widow, and that is why it was my desire to help other widows come out of their miseries. And also to be strong, because some widows think that somebody must help them, and therefore they end up remarrying again, and some of them end up in a life that will not give them honor and dignity, because many people take widows as people who don't know anything, or as people who are outcasts. In our society, many people don't respect widows. When your husband dies, it's a time to be battered left and right. And many widows don't know even their rights. Many at times you find that the widows, they lose everything they have. And after that, they start going from one place to another, wandering without hope. But as for me, it was my desire that widows must live a life of honor and dignity. So that is how we started Mercy, with the children's home, with the widow groups. From that year, 2002, up to now, the widow group is still going on. We have seen God doing so many things with the widows. Some wouldn't even have chairs in their houses. Through the widow group, they have worked. We cultivate our land. We have a land. We bought land, 1 acre land for the widows. And this land we cultivate, we plant our crops there every year. Actually, we plant twice a year. If this season we planted maize, the other season we plant groundnuts and many other things. We sell these products and we divide money. We also do table banking for our widows. So that is what we are doing. And Mercy Compassionate Center is still running. The school is doing well. We thank God for what God is doing. I want to challenge other widows that when your husband dies, don't just remain there grieving. Turn to God. I want to attribute all this to God Almighty, because when my husband died, I didn't know what to do. I feared all these things that are called inheritance, and so I turned to God. And I can attest that God helped me from that time, that even though there was harassment, I was strong, that I know that the Lord is my helper. And from that time, I've not regretted that I'm a widow, and I cannot be miserable, because I know my Redeemer liveth and is my helper. This year, as we celebrate Widow's Day, I want to challenge other widows that you can make it. Find yourself something to do. Don't just sit there lamenting, but know that you are a human being. You are also somebody who must be listened to. You have children who need upkeep. When you look to God, and also I want to tell widows that you must work hard. You must work hard. You must look up to God, because the Lord is our helper. I was left with nothing from the time my husband died, but I knew one day I will live even in a better house. I knew that my children will go to school, and that is what God helped me.